All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Hatoraid Live, the Hatoraid Hour podcast. I am your host, Jordan, aka Hatoraid Cowboy, and we got a lot of stuff to talk about. Got a special guest that I'll be introducing here in a minute, but just a few housekeeping items. Let's have fun, let's be kind to one another, and let's keep it G-rated. All right, well, I did not come alone today. We got a special guest, George from Theater at Home. What's up, man?
Not much. Glad to be here.
Yeah, glad to have you on the channel. So by the way, who's ever watching right now, let us know where you're watching from in the chat. Um, Actually, give me 1 second. I just realized my Ethernet cable is unplugged. So, um, hold on. Some technical difficulties. I was showing on Wi-Fi, so I don't want it to go offline here. So let me plug this in really quick. Okay, we are back. So, yeah, so welcome, George. So I know we met for the first time at MWAVE,
That's
right?
right.
So you were at MWAVE 2024.
Oh, that
We
was an amazing event.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I was trying to get George onto the live stream that we did for MWAVE, but he actually, I think you went on a cruise or something. You
I
went out of town.
did.
Okay.
Yep, I was out of town, so unavailable. I was sad to miss it.
Where did you go?
I went up to Alaska, actually.
Oh man, so that was that a 14-day cruise or
It was 8 day cruise.
hey, okay. Yeah, those are usually typically pretty long. I know some of those they have like 30-day cruises. I'm like, man, that's too long.
Yeah, but by the eighth day, I was like, okay, I'm ready to get off the boat. Like, I
Yeah.
think that was a good length.
I've done I've done a couple 7-day cruises, a 5-day cruise, and I'm trying to remember if I've done a 3-day cruise. I think 5 to 7 is. It also depends on how long you spend on at sea, because sometimes
Yeah.
they'll book it and you may spend it like a day on sea. But like, yeah, usually by the time like the 6th or 7th day, I'm like, all right, I'm tired of being on this boat. Like, let's go
Yeah.
home,
Yep. It's like, yep, it's time to wrap it up.
wrap it up. What's going on, Ariel? Thank you for tuning in. So yeah, so I wanted to have George on because I got a chance to meet him at MWave. We were both at MWave this year. This was George's first time. And I didn't get to talk to him a whole lot, but saw him, met him, and then we actually talked a little bit at the VIP dinner, I
That's
believe on
right.
Saturday. So we got a chance to sit next to each other. We got a chance to talk to some other YouTubers, Brian's Tech Therapy, and Stop the FOMO. Really, really
Mm,
good, interesting conversation. And then I was like, hey, you know what? Why don't you come on the channel? So, yeah, we got some stuff that we'll talk about here. We'll talk a little bit about George and, his journey and everything. But I did want to talk about a couple things that have happened recently. So, if you guys don't know, Kaleidescape now has a standalone player that is Dolby Vision enabled. So that this is the, oops, I think it's, let me rewind. So this is the Kaleidescape Strato V movie player. So as you can see, it does Dolby Vision. This is the first time Kaleidescape has ever had Dolby Vision. It's got some new technology. Unfortunately, if you have a Kaleidescape and you don't have this player, you're not going to be able to upgrade, from what I understand, which kind of sucks. But I think for most people that are using Kaleidescape, you're using a projector, you probably aren't going to be able to get that anyway, so it's probably not that big a deal. But, if you've got a TV or something like that, or if you have like a HD Fury, then, if you've been waiting to get into Kaleidescape, then, and yeah, $4,000 is still pretty pricey. That's not cheap for anything. But considering how much their other products are, it's actually a good price point. You don't get too many movies on it. I think it's 960 gigs. So I think they said you could put about 10 4K movies on it. But the good thing with Kaleidescape is once you buy it, you download it, it's yours. And you can delete the movie if you need space, you want to download some other ones, and then you can re-download it at no cost. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. I'm sure there's probably some going to be some not so not so kind comments about that as I see. You know what's funny is I typically don't get those on my channel. Very often I'll get some people, but if you go to Shane's channel, man, he gets some hostile people, dude. It's insane the amount of hate that guy gets whenever he posts Kaleidescape content. It's unreal.
I saw the same thing on Youthman's channel. He posted a video about
Yeah,
it.
which is weird because
And yeah, I mean, like the whole comment section was just so much, so much negativity. I mean, everybody was just piling on. I was like, wow, this Kaleidescape is really a lightning rod for controversy.
yeah, it's been controversial for a while. Well, like I said, I'll get them every once in a while, but even then they're kind of mild. But like, man, like anytime, and I talk to Shane Lee every day. He's like, man, I'm probably gonna lose some subscribers. Like he'll show me. He's like, man, I just posted a Kaleidoscape video or a post, and I lost like 5 subscribers, which
Gee.
is very intriguing to me. I don't understand that mentality. It's almost like you've been watching this person's channel for so long. It's almost like they have this like, man, this guy better not post anything about Kaleidoscope. Oh, he posted it. That's it. I'm unsubscribed. Like I don't understand the mentality of unsubscribing because someone made a video that you didn't agree with. It's really weird.
It is bizarre. I've actually thought a lot, probably more than I needed to or should have. I've thought a lot about why Kaleidescape is such a controversial product because you think about it. Oh, you've been just
What's going on,
comment.
Michael?
Hey, Michael. Um, so he says, I think it's a positive step towards meeting the needs of consumers. I agree. People are like,
Nice.
$4,000. How can you say that's affordable? And my thought is, hey, it's definitely a step in the right direction. Yeah, it's not affordable for everybody, but it definitely widens the market. It expands it. And there's people who are out. They're like $10,000 or whatever it is to get into it. They're like, I'm out. But 4,000, there are
Yeah.
people who that it will now be available to them. And so I think it's a great baby step in the right
Right.
direction, and it's progress. So I think it's great.
Yeah.
And I
And
don't I don't under oh go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say I don't understand why Kaleidoscape specifically seems to attract so much vitriol. Like it really seems to incite people into really intense feelings because like if you think about it, you've got like Trinov and Storm Audio. I
Yep.
mean, $20,000 for a processor, right? Now, I don't see much hate on Trinov. Like nobody's like, how dare that company exist? How dare they have a product that costs $20,000? But with Kaleidoscape, people are just like they're
They hate
personally
it, man.
offended because that company exists. And I,
Yeah,
I don't I don't get it.
that's a good point too, because I talk about that all the time. You see, I mean, how people buy what 75 inch now they have 100-inch TVs that are 5 grand.
Yeah.
Nobody says anything about that. Nobody says anything about Trinov. Nobody
Yeah.
says anything about Storm Audio. Nobody says anything about Anthem or what's the Marantz. They've got some receivers that like
Yeah.
and I think again, $4,000 is not cheap. I'm not arguing that. Like that's a valid point. But I feel like $4,000 is more attainable to save up for. Obviously, it
Yeah.
depends on your expenses, your family, like all that stuff. But $4,000 is not like out of the realm. Well, I'll never be able to save up for this. It may take you a couple years, but it's just really weird that because actually I think the first one of the first videos I posted, the video did pretty good with Dune, but I think I did lose a couple of subscribers, and I'm just like, I don't. Even if I've watched a person's channel and I don't like the video, which is really rare, or if I just am not connecting with the video, I click off the video.
Yeah,
And I don't
you got a
even,
lot of other options.
yeah, I don't even thumbs down the video. I think I can count on one hand the times that I've thumbs down a video and it was because I clicked on it and it had absolutely nothing to do. Like, then I'm gonna thumbs down it. But like, I just don't understand the mentality of like, I'm gonna unsubscribe or I'm gonna leave a hateful comment. It's just a really weird dynamic that I don't see on many other products.
The only thing I can think of, and I may be way off, but the only thing I can think of is Kaleidescape is the only option for this type of thing.
That's
It's
true.
the only product. Yeah, we have expensive processors from Trinov and Storm Audio, but we also have less expensive processors from Marantz and Anthem. And so people have options. And maybe it's because it's all or nothing. You either get Kaleidescape or you don't. And there's no cheaper option. And so because it is out of reach for so many people, I this is I'm going to get some unsubscribes from this. But maybe it's because people look at it and they're like, I can't have that and there's no other option for me available, and so therefore I hate it. I love it. I want it. I can't have it, so I hate it. I don't
Yeah,
know.
that's
Maybe.
probably right. I mean, I've heard people comment, on my channel. I've seen on other channels or other people saying that maybe it's jealousy. I don't know. I mean, I'm not that
Mhm.
type of person. Like, before I was on YouTube, I didn't have hardly anything. I had a bunch of hodgepodge speakers, and I would watch Michael, I would watch Youth Man, I would watch Shane Lee, I would watch other people, and I've never had the idea where I'm like, man, I really want that. I'm not going to support this person and their channel because they like. I just never have had that, so I don't know what it is, but I did want to give a couple shout outs here. So Laptop Doc says, newly subscribed to your channel. Love the MWAVE JTR video and also how you address each and every comment under the video. After the first few minutes, I paused and started browsing for MWAVE 2025. Thank you, man.
Nice.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I still try to, and like I was saying before, my comment section is I would say it's like 98%, if not more, like a healthy comment section. I'll get the occasional, you know, there's a couple people that I've had to block because it's just like, dude, what are you talking about? Like, get out of here. Um,
Mhm.
but I try to comment on every single, comment or reply to every single comment. I don't know how long that's gonna last. Obviously, if I ever get to a specific size where there's hundreds of comments, I won't be able to. But I always feel like that's a vital part of the channel. Like, that's one of the only real ways that you can interact with people other than like, a live stream like this. So, hey, I appreciate the support, man. Charlie B says, good evening, everyone. Good evening, Charlie B. Ariel's been in the comments. Let's see. Yeah, that's another thing. Youthman says the issue is people feel they can build it for cheaper. And maybe you can, but it's not the same thing.
And
And
it's more than just the hardware. It that
yes.
the platform, there's so much development that has to go into that. They've built relationships with the studios.
Mm-hmm.
That in and of itself is massive because studios don't like uh, I'm not I'll hold my tongue. It's difficult to gain access to those films legally
Yep.
because the studios, they like to maintain control. And so yeah, the hardware, maybe so. Maybe the hardware is a small fraction of the total price, but you're buying a lot more than just the hardware.
You're buying into, I would say, the biggest benefit other than getting a little bit better video quality, it's convenience, man. Like you said,
Yeah.
like, the studios, they set the price.
Yep.
It's not just like, because you might see some that are like 19.99. You might see some that are 39.99 when you buy a new movie. The studio sets the price, but to be able to have, I mean, that was unheard of. What, 20, 15, 20 years ago, a movie comes out in the theater and a month later it comes out, or if you're the fall guy, it comes out 2 weeks after, like, it's still in the theater. Like, that's unheard of. So don't for people that have the budget and that don't want to fool with, let me buy a disc every month, let me rip it, let me increase my hard drive size, let me have to store all this stuff on a computer, hard drive, disc, all that stuff, let me get a player to stream everything. It's convenience. Now, on the other side of that, there's no argument The hard drive is not the hard drive space is not cheap at all.
Right.
I
Right.
personally, I don't think I could ever. I don't. I know what Michael's going to say. Never say never, but I don't see myself upgrading hard drive space anytime soon. I have what, 6 terabytes. So I'm gonna be the guy that's, once it fills up, I'm gonna start deleting movies and downloading like. So yeah, there's a lot of things that are understandable about people's qualms with it, but it's kind of one of those things where, like, don't just hate on it because it's not available. You
Yeah.
know, it's a niche thing, and like you said, they're the only ones. Like nobody else has, and I don't know with the licensing that they have. If, even if somebody else wanted to come along that had a good product or better product, like I don't know how that would work. I don't know if it's like, hey, we already deal with Kaleidescape. We have a relationship built with them. We're happy. We don't need to branch out. I don't know, but if that does ever happen, then yeah, competition breeds. You know, the prices would probably come down. But until that happens, I mean, they can basically do what they want with it, you
Yep.
know?
I agree. I agree. But yeah, I will say this latest announcement of their new Strato V. Before, yeah, Kaleidescape was totally out of the picture for me, but now I'm taking a second look at it and I'm like,
Yeah,
oh, maybe, because if you're willing to do the delete and re-download, that's a standalone player. You don't need to
yeah,
buy the extra storage. Your ISP is going to hate you because you're going
yeah,
to be burning up the bandwidth. But that's a one-time cost, and then obviously buying the movies or renting the movies. But yeah, it's definitely getting in the range of attainability.
yeah. And it's gigabit Ethernet, so even if you do have to do the delete, download, re-download, you can download a movie in like 15 minutes. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't have gigabit. I think I have like 450 down, maybe like 20 up. And when I download a movie, it's done in like 15 minutes. So if you have
Wow.
gigabit,
Yeah.
it's probably even faster. Yeah, like, and also a lot of people don't talk about this, and I don't know, maybe I need to do a video, but there's a app too. I go on my phone whenever a new movie comes out. I can see all the movies, and then I was like, oh, I want this movie. I hit buy. It asks me if I want to download in 4K or 1080p or both. It's the same price. I hit download, and 15 minutes later, it's on my server. And I mean, the convenience is, there's nothing else like it. So, but
Wow.
again, I know that's not for everybody. It's not attainable for everybody. I'm super thankful to have mine. But now I think $4,000, like I said, that's a lot more attainable, and that's a price point that I think people can be okay with saving up for, maybe a couple years, and
And by
you
that point, there will be one for 2,000. So there you go,
right,
win-win. Now you've got an extra 2 grand to spend
yeah.
on movies.
Let's see. Tar Hoya says part of the problem with the premium source devices is people compare it to sailing the high seas, which isn't a fair comparison. Yeah, I mean it gets a lot of unfair comparisons, and I'll get comments like, "Hey, how does it compare to like a Zidoo?" And I'm like, I can't even begin to, like, that's not a fair comparison because it's a completely different experience, completely different workflow, if you want to call it that. You've got something that you can go on your phone, hit download, and 15 minutes later, it's done. Whereas if I go buy a disc, I buy the disc, I got to stick it into my computer, I got to select the files I want, rip it. That could take anywhere from an hour to 2 hours. Once I rip it, I put it on my hard drive. Then I put it on my hard drive, and if I'm using Plex or Zidoo, it downloads the stuff. So, it's a couple hours versus 15 minutes, and then I don't have to worry about buying. I mean, you still have to buy hard drive space if you want more, need more, but I don't have to worry about, buying hard drives, plugging them up to a computer because you have to have a computer. So you have a computer, you've got hard drive storage, you got to keep the disks somewhere, you got to store those. And if you have 1,000, 15, I mean, I've seen people that have come on my videos and say they have like 5,000 discs. I'm like, 5,000 discs? I don't know if I want that many to,
Y-
like, I have like almost, what, 450, somewhere between 450 and 500. 5,000, that's insane.
You would need like a storage shed for that. Like second home.
I know, right? Youth man, no shout out. Man? You still working, aren't you? My bad, Chris. Um, so yeah, that home theater dude. I do some stuff with him. Actually, so yeah, I'm actually uploading right now the Kaleidescape review of the Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. So I work with Chris. We, work with Kaleidescape. We cross promote and all that stuff. So Chris has been a big help on the channel and getting me to where I've been. So no disrespect, Chris. Let's
I
see.
love your channel, that home theater dude.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He's been
I,
posting a
I've
lot more content.
I watched a lot of your videos when I was building my theater. So
Yeah. So before I was on YouTube, that was another one. It was Chris, Youth Man, Shane Lee. Like those are the main three that I was watching. Ariel says, "Hey Chris." Youth Man says, "I don't get mad at Shane because he has a trim up. I can't afford it." I know, right?
exactly, right? It's like, hey, I'm happy. I'm happy for them. I would love to have a turn off. I can't afford it, but I'm happy for the people that have it.
Right. Youth Man says, "Hey Chris, good to see you. 50,000 subs, and you won't be able to answer each comment." Yeah, so that's why I'm like, I don't know if I'll ever get there, or if I do, how long that'll take. But I'm trying to answer every comment that I can right now. And I mean, some comments there's not like doesn't warrant a comment, so I usually just thumbs up it or heart it. But I try to leave something. Uh, let's see what we got. Mike Ortiz says, "Gonna catch the replay later, guys. Just wanted to thank George. Got my access point working with his help in the comments of one of his videos." Nice. Yeah, I saw that video you just posted. So
Excellent. Yeah, excellent, Mike. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, awesome.
cool, man. Well, appreciate you for tuning in, and yeah, check out the live stream later. So on the other side of that, before we get into talking a little bit more about George, let me pull this up here. So Zidoo just released some new players. So I think this is their flagship. This is the Ultra HD 8000. So I actually have this. I'm actually looking at it right now. I haven't had any time to plug it up. I took it out of the box, but they sent me one. Shane Lee posted a video of his today. Never gonna beat that guy. So I work full time, 7 to 4. Shane Lee is a full time YouTuber, so he relies on YouTube to pay his bills, to pay. So sometimes we get the same stuff, and I'm like, God, man, like he just got it. I think we got it the same day, a couple days ago, and his video is already posted. So I know I'm never gonna beat him to the punch, which is okay, But some of these products, like if you're the first one to get your stuff out, then your video probably is going to do pretty good. But he posted a video out today, so go check that out. Mine hopefully will be out in another week or so. I've got some stuff to do this weekend in the theater. But yeah, so this is their Ultra HD 8000 player. This is their flagship. So let me, hopefully you guys can see that pretty good. So you've got, so this does 8K, and it also does 8K upscaling. So if you have a TV or projector that does 8K, this will upscale your 4K content to 8K. I don't know if it's 1080p or if it's just 4K that it upscales it from, but it will do 8K. And just looking at Shane's video, like it looks like it's a lot slicker. The UI is a lot slicker, a lot faster. So I'm excited to get that hooked up and do that. But that's in the theater, or that's here. So I'll be doing a video soon on that. But I believe that's their flagship player. This is some of the stuff that they're doing. But I was actually talking to, and there's my thumbnail for one of the videos. I don't know if I'm gonna do like a setup video and then an actual review, because they're pretty much all the same. Like I've done, I don't know how many reviews of these, so it's not going to be a whole lot different. So I may just do like a setup and like a brief overview of the actual like new features, and because it does have a new user interface. But I don't know if I'm going to do like a dedicated video with, videos and angles and all that stuff, because there's not a whole lot that's changed. But me and George were talking off screen, and I guess George, you're not too familiar with these players yet, right?
No, I run Plex, but I have not used Zidoo. Nope.
Yeah, so these are some awesome players. I found out about these a couple years ago. So I get a lot of questions and comments like, "Hey, how does this compare to the Zidoo?" Talking about the Kaleidescape. So if you're somebody that maybe you're not ready yet to dive into Kaleidescape, I still use Zidoo. These are awesome players. This is their. So I was just looking at this before, and it looks like they updated their site because I have the Z20 Pro. This is the Z30 Pro. So this does 8K. So I think all of these are probably. Oh no, so it's still here. So this is the one I currently have, the most updated one, besides the one that they just sent me. So this one, like it has some of these have like it has a drive bay on the side of it. So let's say you have a 8 terabyte or a 16 terabyte. I think these will support up to 16 terabytes. You can put a 16 terabyte in there with all of your media, your movies, your TV shows, DVDs, and then you just stream it over your network. Or if you have it directly connected to your projector, then you can do it that way. But you can also stream stuff from your computer. If you have a NAS, you can stream it over to the Zidoo. You go to the Zidoo. And I have numerous videos on my channel. You can go check that out. But it's got a pretty slick user interface. You just tell the Zidoo, hey, this is where my files are stored on the network. You mount it, and then it's basically like your own Netflix. It catalogs all the movies. It downloads the thumbnails, the movie. So this is what mine looks like. So you have your Home Theater 3.0. That's basically like the player. Um, Let me see. So yeah, this they don't have any full screenshots of this, but these are all the formats that it plays. ISO, MKV, MOV, AVI, M2S. So yeah, me and George were talking about that because I was telling him, I was like, hey man, if you ever want to invest in, because I think you said you typically you're streamer, you do Apple TV, and then you
Yeah.
have you have your Blu-ray player, right?
Yep. Yeah, I've got a collection between 100 to 200 discs currently.
Okay.
So I have a question about when the hard drive is directly in the Zidoo bay, um, and then you rip your disk from your computer. Is it like the interface? Are you just able to just upload that file directly to that hard drive, or
hmm
do you have to have an intermediary? Because when I
So
when I rip to my Plex server, it's on a different PC, and so but they're both Windows, so it's super easy. Like they're
yeah,
all networked together. Is it the same with the Zidoo?
yeah. So it works with SMB. Now when I first got it, I didn't realize I couldn't get it to work because on the Z20, I could do it, but when I got this with the Z20 Pro, the black one, it wasn't working. But it was because I needed. I think there was a firmware update. But yeah, as long as you're obviously the Zidoo has to be on. As long as it's on,
Mhm.
when I rip something, I just drag it over to it and it copies it over the network. I don't have to take the drive out, go to my computer. So that's also another really cool feature.
That's
Um,
awesome. That
yeah,
that is
it's
that is
it's
very cool.
it's a very awesome system, and I actually are starting to use them at some of the shows now. I think somebody had one at MWAVE, and then the first time I saw it was, I think it was at Cedia, and I was like, is that a Zidoo? Because before a lot of people
Mm.
used to use Zapiti or Kaleidescape is the one that they use the most. Um,
What's the price point on that player that
oh,
you just had? The
so
one
they
that
have
the latest one, the
the
8K.
latest, the one that I got. So I
Uh-huh.
believe it's not on the price is on Zidoo, but I saw the price somewhere else. I think it's like $1,300.
Okay.
So, but if I go back to where's this one? So if I go back here, um, so you have all these different ones here. So you've got the Z20 Z or was it Z9X is going to be their like basically their entry level. Why doesn't it let me click on it? I guess it's because it's legacy. So you have. Let me see if I can find. So basically, this is the entry level one. It doesn't have an internal bay or anything. It does the exact same thing. However, um, it just doesn't have a drive bay. But you know, you've got two USB ports on the side. So you've got two USB. So you've got plenty of USB storage that you can plug into this thing.
Mm.
And then
Nice.
you have the Z20. So this is their flagship. the Ultra HD 8000, and then you have the Z3000 Pro, and then you have the Z30 Pro. So this one has one internal drive bay on it. This one I think probably has one. So when you start moving up, I think you have a better power supply. So you get a little bit better. You should get a little bit better, pictures, stuff like that. And then like this one has two HDMI, two internal drive bays, whereas this one only has one. This one only has one. I think the difference between this one over the Z30 Pro is going to be a better power supply, and then this one's going to have more features because I think if I click on this one, you're probably lacking some of the ports on the back. Where did it go? Huh. Picture. Come on, internet. Yeah, so there's the back. Yeah, so see, so this one doesn't have those other the other options. Let me go to Ultra HD picture. So this is their flagship. So like music player. So you can do like music, you can do streaming music and stuff, but you've got yeah, see, so you have all this stuff over here that you get.
Oh,
So you've got your analog output here, whereas the other one doesn't have that. It's probably got better DACs in it. It's probably got better power supply. You've got, dual drive bays on there. So, but I believe the Z20 Pro, the one that I have, or the Z20 Pro, I think it was like $300.
wow.
So
Wow.
it's pretty cheap, man. I mean,
Yeah.
like I said, you still have to have the hard drives and stuff like that, but it's a pretty good product. I love it. A lot of people love those things.
Nice. Yeah, I'm
Uh,
gonna have to look at that a little bit more.
yeah. John Minsa says, still waiting on your review of the NS OSD Nero before I buy it. Okay, so that's honestly that's probably going to be a little bit. A couple things. One, they sent it to me right before Prime Day. They were like, "Hey, if I send this to you pretty quickly, can you do a video because we're having some promotion?" So I was like, "Yeah, I'll do an unboxing, quick overview." And I don't know why I didn't even realize until someone said it in the comment, and I was like, "Wait, what?" And I went and looked on the back of it. There's no XLR outputs. So I have a Emotiva RMC1, and it's all XLR. And maybe you'll hate me after this, but I am not about to unplug all my stuff from XLR and then go to balance. Like, I'm not doing that because I purposefully went to the RMC1 so that I didn't have to. So it's probably going to be a little bit. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to just, I asked for the 8 channel because I didn't even think, I don't even know if the new ones, or if they're all don't have XLR. I asked for the 8 channel because I have an 8 channel amplifier that I'm using. I'm probably gonna put that out in the living room and just get like a 5 speaker. Wait till I get 5 speakers because I'm not trying to do that. I'm not trying to like. I don't even have any. I have the balanced cables. I mean the unbalanced cables, but I'm not trying to dismantle my entire system from XLR to. So I didn't even realize that until someone said it, and I went and looked and I was like, what? So yeah. So honestly, man, I'm sorry. It's probably gonna be a while before that happens. Because I'm just going to do it out in the living room because it's going to be way easier. I have a receiver in there, but I need to get some more speakers, and I think I have some speakers coming in soon. So sorry about that, man. I don't know why, because someone said that the previous versions had XLR, so I'm not sure why they went away from that.
That is interesting that they are putting that out without XLR. So
Yeah,
it's
and
so it's RCA only.
hmm
Interesting.
so we'll get to some more of these comments here in a little bit, but yeah, let's go ahead and talk about you, George, because so I noticed. I would say earlier this year, I started seeing these videos of theater at home. I was like, who is this guy? I've never seen him before. And I started, watching his videos. I was like, okay. And then I started noticing. I was like, man, he's getting some good views on his videos. And because I think for most part for people this year, everybody's been in unison that the views have been kind of trash. Not kind of, they have been trash. Like the views haven't been coming in like they were. And so I kept seeing your videos pop up, and I was like, man, this dude's getting some good views, man. And so I was like, okay, but and because I always like to, whenever somebody just starts popping up on my feed, I'm like, did I miss this? Like, how did I miss this? So I went and look. I always go look at like subscribers, and I was like, oh, I was like, oh, he just started. But then I went and looked at your about section, and I saw like, nah, he started this channel like 7 years ago. I was like, have I missed this? How have I not seen this content? And then I went and looked at your videos. I was like, oh, he didn't post for like a really, really long time. So we ended up meeting at MWAVE, got a chance to talk to him for a little bit, and I was like, let me have him on the channel. So yeah, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got into home theater, how
Okay.
that started, and then maybe go into how you decided to go on to like start doing YouTube.
Perfect. Okay. So, from a high level with home theater, my first introduction to home theater was when I was a teenager, and my friend had hooked his stereo system up to his VCR, and so we're watching movies out of his two big speakers, and I was like, wow, that is a massive improvement over the TV speakers. And so I went home and I got a cable to hook up my VCR to our sound system. And I, from there, I could just see the vision of like where this could go. And so I actually had a subscription to Home Theater Magazine as a teenager,
Okay.
and I don't think they're still around. I can't imagine that they're even still a thing, but,
Might be.
and maybe they're still out there. And then years later, when I moved out and I got on my own, I bought a little 5.1 system with a little Sony receiver, and that was a lot of fun. Um, and I really enjoyed that. But then, life took over, marriage, kids, etc. You know how it goes. Life got complicated, and so I kind of had to shelve it. But then in 2021, I think it was, my brother told me, he's like, hey, I'm building a home theater in my basement. And I was like, oh, that's cool. That's cool that you have a home theater, that you're gonna build a home theater. But every home theater I'd been in up to that point was kind of underwhelming. And so I didn't really think much of him building a home theater. I was like, oh, it'll probably just be kind of like all the others that I've seen, they're not that great. I mean, they're okay, but not great.
Mm.
So, anyways, he built his home theater. He had me over, and the first scene that he played for me was the opening scene on The Greatest Showman.
Nice.
And I just sat back. I was like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. It just floored me. And I'm like, this is it. This is what I envisioned, 20, 30 years ago. This is what I had in mind. So I'm like, I'm doing it. I'm building a home theater. And so I got all inspired. And so I did the deep dive into YouTube, watching Youthman's videos, Shane Lee, that home theater dude, like Gene with Audioholics, like all of them. Right. And so I built my home theater, and I really enjoyed it, and it was a lot of fun. And then I started having thoughts. Like, I'd be watching videos on YouTube, and I'm like, man, I wish I could find a video that talked about X, or I wish somebody did a video where they covered Z. And then I had the thought, I'm like, well, maybe I should just make those videos. Like, I don't know. Like, if I want to see it, maybe there's somebody else out there that would want to see it as well.
Yep.
But you know how YouTube is. Like 90% of videos that get posted to YouTube get like no views at all.
Yeah.
So like they just go out into the void. So I was like, you know what? I'll just make the videos, and if nobody watches it, that's fine. I'll just do it because I enjoyed making the video. So a couple years ago, I made a video about my home theater, just kind of an intro, kind of walk around. And then I saw on one of the forums where somebody had made a post, and they were claiming that they had watched a movie in Atmos, and that they had determined that Atmos was worthless because they weren't impressed with that movie. And so I was like, oh, well, I'll make a video about Atmos and how I don't think it's worthless. So I made that video, and that video, it did all right. Like, people actually watched it. And then that home theater dude. That's right, man. You deserve the recognition. Absolutely, absolutely. Um, and so I made that video, and it got a few views. And then I made like a follow up video to it, but then I didn't do anything with it for like a year and a half, or maybe it was even 2 years. I can't remember the timeline, but I just let it sit. Well, then back in October, that Atmos video, YouTube just kind of picked it up and it started getting views, like just like 50 views, 25 views, 30 views. And it just started ticking up. And it got to the point where this last February, I was like, dang, I mean, it had gotten up over, I think it was up over like 10,000 views or something. I mean, it was just some ridiculous number. And I'm like, I should start making some more videos. And so I did. I made another video. By that point, I'd made some changes to my theater. So I made another, like an update video, and I made some more Atmos related content. And so, yeah, it just kind of took off from there. And honestly, I've been very surprised and extremely grateful for the response that I've gotten. I am floored. I'm blown away that people are actually interested in hearing what I have to say or seeing what I'm working on. I can't believe it. Because even if nobody watched them, I enjoy making the videos, and so
Hmm.
there is some benefit there. But the fact that there's people out there who are interested in it, I'm so grateful and I'm floored. And so yeah, it's been awesome. It's been a wonderful journey, and yeah, I've met people. So like MWAVE, meeting you, Jordan, and meeting all the other YouTubers, and interacting with people in the comments. I love it when people will leave comments and they share what their setup is. They're like, "Oh, I'm running this receiver and I've got these speakers, and initially I had, my Atmos setup with, tops, but then I moved it to the, on ceiling and the, like kind of sharing their journey, because I just love talking home theater, and so I love interacting with people and hearing their story and what they've got going. So it's been great. It's been
That's
awesome.
that's awesome, man. Yeah, I was kind of the same way. So I was watching the same guys. I was watching Chris, that home theater dude, more recognition. I was
Yeah.
watching Youth Man, Shane Lee, Audioholics. Who else was I? I was watching K Pace. Got like so I was watching
Oh
YouTube
yeah,
and like
K-Face guy.
yeah, he was at MWave.
Yep.
So I would because I loved home theater. I had a rinky dink setup for like 10 plus years, and so I was watching. I was like, man, this is cool. I'd see like Chris, that home theater dude. I'm like, man, these guys get to see all these awesome home theaters. They're installing stuff. Youth Man is doing all these tours. I'm like, man, that must be awesome. And then I'm like, man, they're getting product in to review. Like that must be great. And I was like, man, I wish I could do that. I wish I could, because at the time I was like, I know I'll never be able to afford any of this stuff, but it would be cool to get stuff in, play with it, and then make a video about it, and then teach people or share my journey. And so I just was like, man, that'd be cool. And then after a while, I started thinking about it. I was like, you know what? I think I could do this. I think I could make some videos. I didn't know anything about video editing. I didn't know anything about filming, audio, nothing. I had never edited a video before. I didn't have any equipment. So after a while, I started thinking about it. I was like, you know what? I think I want to try to do this, but I don't even know where to start. Like, I don't have any of the fancy stuff, anything like that. And so I wasn't serious about it, but the idea was kind of kicking around in my head for a while. And then the thing that kind of like tipped me over the scale was I was out with some friends in Austin. And I don't even remember how home theater came up. I mean, my friends knew that I had a theater and they knew that I was passionate about it. But something came up, and my buddy goes, and I hadn't told anybody that I was thinking about starting YouTube. My buddy goes, "Hey man, you should you should start a YouTube channel." He's like, "You know a lot about this stuff. Like you should do it." And I was like, "All right." The fact
Nice.
that I was like thinking about doing it, and then that he said that, and hadn't even told anybody, I was like, "All right, I need to just do it." And I was like, "I know my videos are gonna suck, but I'm just gonna start doing it, and I'm just gonna learn, and I'm gonna try to get better, as time goes by." But that was also kind of me too, because I was looking for a way to get Dolby Vision on my projector. And I was like, man, there's got to be some way. And I came across this video on HD Fury from, I think, Home Theater Engineering. and it was like one video, and he didn't really delve into it very much. And so I looked it up, and I was like, this is probably a gimmick. Like, it probably doesn't work. And I was like, I'll buy it. If it sucks, it's Amazon. I can return it. And I bought it, and it took me a little bit to figure it out. And I was like, oh snap, this is a pretty awesome thing. And I was like, why are there no videos on this anywhere? I couldn't find anything. And I was like, well, maybe if I make some videos, maybe somebody else is wondering the same thing. And so I was like, I'm just going to make some videos. And yeah, the video didn't do that good, at first. It actually took off a little bit later, but it was kind of like once I started making the videos, I was like, hey man, this is kind of cool. I think I like this. And then seeing people interact with you, comment, and like, hey man, thanks for this video. This is awesome. It's like, oh wow, like I can actually help people. So that was kind of my thing. It was, I wanted to make videos, but also I was like, I want to get to a point too, to where I can get some of these nice toys and play with them, So
Nice.
yeah, YouTube is interesting because like you said, my algorithm is all over the place. I watch all kinds of content. I watch camera gear. I watch like other YouTube. I watch all kinds of stuff. So my algorithm's all over the place. But one thing that I've noticed, if you're on YouTube, there's a niche for it. There's people will watch you. You will find you will find a following. Doesn't matter what you do, what you talk about, because there's stuff sometimes that pops up on my algorithms. Like, first of all, this is weird. I don't even know what this is. I don't want it, but there's an audience for somebody. So
Somebody's watching it.
yeah, and everybody's unique. Everybody has different talents. Everybody has different personalities. Because there's channels that I watch the content. I'm like, this person gets on my nerves. Absolutely gets on my nerves. But they have awesome content, so I support. But other people, they're like, man, I love your video. I love you. So it's just, YouTube is very interesting to me because it doesn't matter what you do, no matter what your content is, you're going to find a following. It may take you a little bit of a while for people to find you, but people will find you, and, eventually people will start, supporting you. So that's cool, man, to hear about how you got started. So did you say what type of system was it? Your brother or your brother-in-law? Who was that?
Yeah, it was my brother.
Your brother.
Yeah.
What type of system was he running in his basement?
So he started out with a Sony receiver, and he had a 5.1.2, and he still has Golden Ear in-wall Invisa speakers. So like
Okay.
his LCRs are the Invisa SPS, and then his sides and I guess they were rears just initially. His rears were the MPX, and then the 650s for his end ceiling. And I was just amazed by those speakers. And so when I built mine, I got those exact same speakers.
Okay.
I did go 7.2.4 right out of the gate. And initially I got set up with the Marantz 7706 processor.
Okay.
And then I had that for a year or two, and then I upgraded to the Anthem AVM 70. Sold the 7706, and then upgraded to the Anthem AVM 70. And now currently I'm running a 9.2.4 setup. So
Nice.
yeah, and they're all Golden Ear, except I do have two of my heights are bookshelf KEF speakers.
Okay.
And that's a whole other story of how I ended up with those. But
Yeah, I think
that's where
I
I'm
watched
at.
your video.
Oh, did you? Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. So Jeff Robinson, is that how
Hey,
you say
Jeff
it?
Robinson.
From
Yeah.
Deep Sea
Hey,
Sound. Thanks for
I
tuning in,
remember
man.
him.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
actually, I don't think I got to meet him at MWAVE. Like I saw the subs that were out there in the hallway, but I don't think I actually got to meet him. So,
Nah, yeah,
apologies,
Jeff,
I didn't get a chance
great
to meet
guy.
you, Jeff. Let's see. Ariel says that's how I found you, Jordan. I saw the HD Fury video. Oh, nice. So, man, that was long. That was. I mean, I guess it's not that long ago. It was only. It seems like I've been doing it a lot longer, but I think I'm like, wait, I started in 2021. It actually hasn't even been 3 years yet because I started in September. So a couple more months, it'll be 3 years. But yeah, that was probably like one of my first videos. I can't even watch those videos, man. They're so bad. Like I can't. Sometimes people will comment on like videos that are like 3 years old, and I'm like, what video is this? And I'm like, oh God, I can't watch this.
That's
So
the
it's
first rule of YouTube. Your first videos are gonna suck.
yeah,
It's,
a
it's
lot of
just
them are gonna suck. I mean, even Mr. Beast says he's like your first. He says your first 500 videos are gonna suck.
yeah,
That's a lot.
yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, I didn't actually get a chance to meet Jeff there. But Don says, "What's up, Jeff?" The home theater dude says, "I know who that is." Hey Ariel, hope you enjoyed hearing about us last night. And I think who is that? Chris. I think he has some of those subs on his channel. My home theater.
Yes, yeah.
He's been making some videos.
He's got the 18s right now, but I think the latest video he said that they're they're swapping out the 18s and he's going to try out the
24s.
24s. Yeah,
Nice.
I mean, geez, I hope he
24s
has
are
a good foundation for his house.
yeah, that's gonna that might do some damage. So I saw one of your latest videos. You got some amps in, right?
I did, yeah. Outlaw Audio sent me 3 monoblock amps, and I've
Nice.
got them running my LCRs, and they are solid.
Separates are
I'm
nice.
yeah.
So I'm did he reach out to you or did you like how did that come
He
about?
yeah. So they reached out to me. They
Awesome.
contacted me. He'd seen one of my videos previously. I want to say it was a video. I think it was my oh Jeff. Yeah, he's calling out my son. Yeah, I have a son who likes to play chess.
Nice.
He's kind of a chess fan. Um, but yeah, I'd made a video about kind of the mistakes that I'd made in my home theater. I think it was that one. Anyways, something that I had mentioned in the video gave him the idea. He's like, "Oh, you might want to look at these monoblock amps." So he reached out to me and he said, "Hey, we have these amps, and if you'd be interested in them, and you can review them and see what you think." And I was like, "Yeah, I'll give them a shot. Let's see what they are." And so I got them, and yeah, they're awesome. They are 200 watts each. So
4 or 8 ohm.
dedicated. That's at 8 ohm. So
Okay,
they
so you'll
do.
get more at 4 ohm
Yep.
then probably.
Yeah, they're rated at 300 watts into 4
Nice.
ohms. Yeah, and the distortion is really low. It's 0.05, less than zero point zero 0.05
Oh
THD.
wow.
Yeah, and they're so quiet. I would say silent. Like my other
Mm-hmm.
speakers that I've got running off other amps, especially my Crown amps, you get a lot of speaker hiss. That's just the way it is. Um, these Outlaw Audio amps, man, they are just dead silent.
And
It's
are they
it's
XLR?
amazing. Yep, XLR.
Yeah.
They're both. They have RCA and
Okay.
XLR. Which, interestingly, I've got a video that I'm going to be making here shortly. I noticed a difference, and I don't think this is unique to Outlaw Audio, but when I initially hooked one of them up, I used an RCA cable, and there was a dramatic difference in when Anthem Arc Genesis ran its sweeps. There was a big difference
Huh.
in the output of the speaker uh, from the ones that were connected over XLR versus the one that was connected over RCA.
Probably getting
So
cleaner power too.
yeah, cleaner power, higher output.
Mm-hmm.
So I immediately replaced that. I'm like, I got to go all XLR. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I was having a huge issue, and it could be a combination of things. I think I mean, the power here is not too bad, but it could have been, the power coming in to my house, wiring, which I've vastly improved since before. I know it doesn't look like it in the video that I mean, I still have some stuff I need to do to it because I'm not technically finished with the rack. It's about 95% done. But I was having a massive issue with just hum and buzz coming on, and it drove me crazy, man. And I was like, "There's got to be." I tried everything. I tried the hum, whatever those things called, the little boxes that you stick. Like I tried all
yeah,
kinds of stuff, and I was like, you know what? And that's why I was like, when I got the RMC one, I was like, I need to go XLR because I want to see if this is going to change. And I think when I got the RMC one, I had my Emotiva XPA 3 was the only thing that had XLR. All the other amps had, RCA. So when I got the
mm,
RMC one, I plugged in the LCR, RCA, and the hum went away. And I was like, oh snap, I need to go all XLR. So
yeah.
I got some different amps, or I got the amp from Stark Sound, and sure enough, man, hooked it up, silent. So I
Yeah.
was like, thank you. And I was like, I'm never going back. So that's another reason why I'm not rushing to make the OSD video, because I'm like, nah, I'm not going back to that. There's no way. So,
Yeah.
is that your first? Is that your first like brand collaboration?
So I did one before that with Valencia Seating.
Oh yeah, yeah,
They
yeah. That's right. You got
they
the
sent me a
yeah.
couple of chairs to check out. That was really cool. That was a lot of
That's awesome.
fun.
That's
Yeah.
awesome,
So
man. Because I mean, my channel's still relatively small, but I remember at like 1,000, 2,000 subscribers, like reaching out. Like I knew companies were probably going to say no, but I remember reaching out like very early on, and I either got ignored or they would say no. So I was like, man, that's awesome that you're getting products already, because it's I would say within the last year and a half, I barely have just been getting to the point to where like companies will reach out, or I'll ask for something and they'll be like, oh yeah, that's cool. One thing I
yeah.
noticed very early on though, I think my first year, because obviously, because like I was saying, I would either get ignored or companies would just say no. I was like, I need to start going to these shows and start shaking hands, because
Mm.
there's a huge difference between reaching out to a company that doesn't know you at all, doesn't know your content, and but meeting them in person. At least you can say, hey, I've met this guy, and then you start to see him around the same shows, and you start to develop a relationship, business relationship. So from then on, I was like, I need to start going to these shows. And man, I think MWAVE was the first show that you've been to, right?
It is. Yep.
It
Yeah.
is incredible. I would say, if you can do it, because it's not cheap, it is incredibly vital to growing your channel, and to also getting the opportunity to get products.
Mhm.
Because companies, like, it may not have been that way 10, 15 years ago, but companies now realize that like content creators, like, you get, like, it's valuable. It's a win-win situation, because any company can say, hey, buy my product. My product is good. But that's, of course they're going to say that. They're not going to be like, hey, my product sucks sometimes. But if you give it to reliable people that will, test it, maybe they don't have all the fancy tools and gears to do all the statistics and stuff. But if you send it to people that are trustworthy and reliable, then you can say, hey, I have this product in, I reviewed it, it's great, but there was a couple things wrong with it. And then you can talk to the brand and say, hey, before I put out this review, I know there's this issue here, and maybe they'll say, oh, we didn't know about that. Let us look at that. Sometimes they may say, hey, hold off before, which is fair. Hold off before you make the review so we can test it and see if that's something that we need to be fixed. Or they'll say like, yeah, post it, we'll address the issue, whatever. Because I've always felt like, even before I was on YouTube, even now, I always felt like we were guinea pigs, because it got to the point to where when companies realize that they can push a product out before it's ready, and we'll just push out a firmware update to it. Man, you would get stuff all the time where it's like, this is junk. Like, I paid how much for this and it doesn't work. Oh, well, we'll send it. But now, if they can send them out to reviewers before they actually release it, and actually get like hands on, real time with it, then you can say, hey, this is this issue. They can address all that stuff before it even gets released to the public.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a win-win because yeah, we kind of like beta testers. So
yeah, I still get ignored. I need to up my hustle. I get ignored, man. Like, it's it's definitely been a grind, man. I'm definitely thankful for the opportunities that I've had and that I have now, because there's been a lot of people that have helped me. Chris, that Hum Theater dude, has helped me. Youth Man has helped me. Shane has helped me. He's had me on the channel. And actually, Chris, so Emotiva they only did it one time. It was a Texas Audio Roundup in Austin. And I was like, that was actually the first show that I ever went to. And I was like, man, this is in Austin. I'm in Houston. That's like a 2.5 hour drive. I need to make it out there. Like, I need to go. Like, just do it. So I drove out there. I was there, I think, on Sunday. And I think Chris went like Friday and Saturday. So I didn't get to see him, but he made a video and I commented on it. And I was like, hey, man, Like I didn't, because I knew he was in Houston somewhere, but I had never met him. And I was like, hey man, I was there too. Like, sorry I missed you, whatever. And he was like, oh, he's like, I didn't know there was another content creator, and I think I just hit 1,000 subscribers when I went to that show.
Mm.
So he was like, oh hey man, he's like, we should try to link up sometime and see if we can collaborate. So I was like, oh okay. And then a couple weeks went by, and I was like, man, he probably forgot. He doesn't want to. He was just being nice. He hit me up again. He's like, hey man, we need to meet up. So I was like, oh okay.
Wow.
So we met up and we started talking because he lives like 30, maybe like 35 minutes from me. But we met
Wow.
up at a
That's
restaurant.
awesome.
Yeah, we met up at a restaurant and we started talking. And he was like, yeah man. He's like, I'm all about helping. Like I'm not trying to like keep stuff to myself. This is that. And I think that was in July, and Cedia was coming up, and I've always wanted to go to Cedia. So he's like, "Hey man, are you going to Cedia?" And I said, "I would like to." I said, I don't think I have the funds to go." And he was like, "Well," he's like, "Do you want to go?" I was like, "Yeah, of course." And so he has his own business. I don't think he promotes it as much right now, but he was going through his business, and he got me on for free. Just like, I mean, I didn't even know the guy, and he was like, "Hey, here you go." He sent me an email. He's like,
Wow.
so I
That's
was like,
awesome.
dude. So yeah. So ever since then, man, we've been working together, doing stuff. So he's been a huge part of. I mean, I've met so many people through that guy. He showed me around. He showed me how to do stuff on YouTube. He showed me how to. So it's been. I'm super thankful for the opportunities that I've got to have. The people that I've gotten to meet. And I met Ike and Brad, the home theater gamer, and Youth Man at my first CD. I met them there.
Mm.
Linked up with them, followed them around for a little bit. So it's been an enjoyable ride,
That's awesome. That's so cool.
and it's cool that you got to go too. To MWAVE, and I'm sure you probably met some people that you would never. That's the thing when you go to these shows, like it's one thing to communicate with people over email and brands, but some of these people you would never, ever meet if you didn't go to like something like MWAVE or something like that, and then you know people see that you go, and they're like, "Oh, he went to this show. Maybe I'll contact him and send him stuff." So that's awesome, man. That you got those outlaw monoblock amps. I don't have monoblock. I have just the like 8 channel amps, but
Mm.
I know how much my setup improved just going to separate because I've been using separates for a long time, but I was using like the pre-outs on like it was a receiver, so I was using it as a processor, but it's still not a processor. When I went to the from a receiver, I had an Anthem. Actually, the guy just picked it up yesterday. I sold it. The Anthem MRX 720.
Oh
When
yeah.
I
Yeah.
when I got that from like an Anker receiver, I was like, "Oh snap! This is a huge step up." But when I
Yeah.
went to a processor, it was like, I can't believe my system sounds like this. Like,
Ah.
it's not possible that because I was like, I had never experienced a processor in my home, and I was like, okay, it'll probably sound a little bit better because everyone talks about processors. Dude, immediately, as soon as I didn't even calibrate it.
Yeah.
As soon as I turned it on, I was like, oh snap, this channel separation is insane in here. Like it's a huge difference. So I can only imagine going monoblocks is even better.
Yeah, there's just so much available power just behind each one of those speakers, and it's just there when you need it, and it's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. So you have that headroom. Like your ears are gonna give out far quicker than those amps are
Yeah,
gonna give out.
yeah. The weakest point in the equation just suddenly becomes
Yeah.
your ear. Absolutely.
So Jeff says the Outlaw monoblocks are great for value for what you get. I'm running 5,000X
Oh,
for my
nice.
surrounds and Atmos. I agree. They're dead silent. Nice.
Yeah, those are good amps. Good amps.
XLR gives a 3D bump over RCA. Interesting. Didn't know that,
That backs up
but it makes
what my
sense.
experience is. Yeah, what I saw that like when I saw it, I mean, it was right there on the graph, and I was like, whoa. Because you see a lot of debates about like XLR versus RCA, and
Hmm.
some people will say, "Oh, you only get an advantage with XLR if it's a long run or a lot of interference." But I mean, I'm talking like this was like 6 inches,
Yeah,
and so yeah, there's definitely a difference there.
yeah. Because I've been using RC until I got the ARM C1. I've been using RCA's for probably 15 years, and I've always had issues with hum. But for some reason, when I moved into this house, I don't know what it was, and like I said, it could be a mixture of things. Could have been just the wiring was too close or whatever. I didn't have a clean enough, wiring. But when I moved into this house, it almost like it got amplified, and I was like, man. And so, I
Mm,
mean, I've been in this house for almost 6 years. I got the RMC one last year, so we're talking like 5 years of where, and I guess most of the time, it probably like after a while, I just would forget about it because you don't hear it while you're watching like loud scenes and stuff. But anytime it's
yeah.
quiet or I would turn on my system and I wasn't playing anything, it's just you hear this hum and it was so loud. I was like, I can't do this. And I was like, I really hope that these XLRs would fix it. And like I said, when I went to XLR, I was like, oh snap, I'm not going back ever. Like it's
Yeah.
not. I don't want it.
Yep.
Jeff says we made a ton of connections at MWAVE. Several companies, after knowing we are where we are, asked if we would like to partner up. It was pretty awesome. So yes, I agree that yeah. So yeah, and I didn't even
Yeah.
think about that for like brands, other brands. So that's pretty cool too.
Yeah. MWAVE was just an amazing event. It just really was so cool to be surrounded by just
Hmm.
everybody was there. It was a home theater enthusiast, and the vendors were awesome. The attendees were awesome. It was just it's just such a great event.
Yeah, really, really, really cool event. Really, and a lot of the brands, man, they're like everyone's so inviting. Like you can just walk up to like how often do you
Mm.
get to do that? To walk up to the CEO of X company and get to hear them talk about all the stuff engineers. Like it's really cool, and it's different from like Cedia where it's a dealer driven show where the general public usually can't even get in unless you know somebody.
Mm.
But even then, like they don't have time to just stop and talk to you about like, oh yeah, this is that. They're there to show product to dealers, distributors and stuff like that. So it's just a different beast.
Yeah.
Let's see. Jeff says items I will always have in my theater: separates, acoustically transparent screen with speakers behind and out of sight. Yeah, that's actually an
Amen.
idea that I'm
Amen.
kicking around right now. An AT screen, but yeah, I will never go back from separates.
Yeah.
Um, it's just
Once you have it, then you're like, like I get it. Like some rooms, you're just constrained, or
right,
whether
right.
it's budget, like maybe separates aren't available, just from a budget constraint. But once you have it, then it's like, oh no, it would never make any sense to go back. So, and
Yeah,
same with the acoustically transparent screen. Like I love having my speakers behind my screen
yeah.
here. It's
And
just
you gain so much floor space.
yes,
Um, what
yeah.
what what brand screen material is yours?
So I have it's Dragonfly, the AcoustaWeave
Okay, I've heard of
screen.
Dragonfly before.
Yeah, it's I think it's like an integrator brand. It's through Snap One or Snap
Oh yeah,
AV.
yeah.
I'm not
Okay,
sure. I'm not sure what their
I've
name
met
is
some of
now.
those guys,
Have you? Okay.
and yeah, actually, me and Chris last year, Sony had a thing in Austin, and they had because I had never heard of Snap AV. They work with what is the remote
Control 4.
Control 4? Yeah, so I'd
Yeah,
heard of
they
Control 4.
merged. They're like one company
Yeah,
now.
so they had this. They were showing when they released their new receivers. They had this thing event at it was somebody's home. It was a millionaire's home, but it was basically an Airbnb, a millionaire like a mansion Airbnb.
Oh
So
wow.
Sony set up their. They were like, "Hey, can we set up some stuff?" Because what they also did was Sony went in there. Well, the guy had like a garage that he turned into like a home theater. So he had like Kev speakers. He had the Sony ES receiver. So they were like, "Hey, is it okay if we set up shop here and just have everybody come here, like the dealers and stuff, come here, content creators?" It was like, "Yeah." So we went out there, but that was the first time I had heard of Snap AV. I was like, "Snap AV." I was like, "Oh, okay.
Huh.
I guess they work with yeah." That house was crazy. It was like, this is an Airbnb. Like, how much does this cost?
That's awesome. I want to stay there.
Right. Let's see. I was limited to where I could place the speakers behind the screen due to the wall studs. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's yeah. Everybody has issues, constraints that they have to work with, but they are
Yep.
relatively even spaced with the left and right near the edges of the screen.
That's nice. That's excellent.
Um, me see. Home Theater Denmark. Hey, what's up, Denmark? Appreciate you for tuning in. I'm sure it's probably late, like or early morning there. He's always chiming. I'll like, hey man, let me know where you're from. Like on some of my premiere videos, he's like, yeah, it's like or let me know what time it is. He's like, it's like 3 a.m. here, and I'm like, dude, I think you should be asleep, but I greatly appreciate you supporting me. Like he usually will like chime in and then be like, hey, I gotta go to sleep. I'm like, dude, yeah, get some sleep, but I appreciate the support, man. He says, might be a stupid question, but my Marantz Cinema 40 doesn't have XLR, but my Crown does. Does it have an effect to get a mixed cable, both XLR? So I'll give you my thought on that. You're limited to. So let me figure out how to word this because I thought about this too earlier. If you have XLR on your amplifier, but your receiver has XLR, has RCA. Even if you get an XLR to RCA, you're limited by the weakest link. So you're not going to be getting the benefits of the RCA because it's still going back into. You're not going to get the benefits of XLR because it's still going back into RCA. So it's kind of almost no point unless you just need the connector because you have no other choice.
Yeah.
But what do you think, George?
Yeah, so I actually have some experience with this. So my brother, he originally started out with his Sony receiver, and then he wanted to go full 11 7.1.4. So he upgraded to the Denon 3700, which is 11 channels processing, but only 9 channels of amplification. So he had to use a no, it's yeah, definitely not a stupid question. So he had to have a 2-channel amp to power those additional 2 channels. And so he used a Crown amp, and it has XLR input, and his output on his Denon 3700 is an RCA. And so what we did is we got an XLR cable, and then I think he bought an XLR to RCA adapter. So it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't a straight XLR to RCA cable. You can buy those,
Yeah.
but this was kind of a Frankenstein where it was XLR cable with an RCA adapter on it. I don't think that was ideal. And when he plugged it in, he did get a buzz. Now,
Yep.
I'm not sure if the buzz was because of that cable. Ultimately, I did try one of those hum eliminator boxes that you
Hum
were talking
X
about
or
earlier.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And we plugged that in, ran the power through that, and that eliminated the buzz. So I don't know if swapping out for just a straight cable that what didn't include the adapter would have fixed that. I don't know. I basically, if sometimes you just got to do what you got to do.
Right. Yeah.
And so in that case, and the cables aren't that expensive. And so I would say get it, plug it in, see if it works. And if it works, it works. And if not, then you can look at other options.
Yeah, so I will say, I know with adapters, when you start introducing adapters, you introduce more interference. So it'd be
Yes.
better to go just a straight cable XLR to RCA because I had that issue on one of my Onkyo receivers, one of the first ones that I bought. I didn't need it, but 15 years ago, me being a noob, I was like, oh my, because and it was weird. My Onkyo receiver had, I think it was only three or two XLRs on it. No, it was two because you could only do the left or right. It was really
Mhm.
weird. And all the rest of the connectors were RCA, but I was like, oh, like I have RCA, XLR in here. So I got a cable. It was XLR to RCA. I didn't realize that I'm not getting the benefits of RCA of XLR because
Yeah.
you're still limited by that weakest link with the so it's one of those things where if you like in that specific situation, like you were saying, George, if you just need the cable because you need to connect your crown amp to a receiver that doesn't have XLR, then yeah, you're not going to get the benefits of XLR.
Yeah.
But if you don't need to do that, I mean, I don't. I would think it's still the same as an RCA to RCA. So it's just probably one of those weird use cases where I actually need this connector, but I would go just a straight cable and not introduce any adapters if you don't have to because you'll be introducing more
Yep.
interference.
Yep. I agree.
Let's see, AFAC, an XLR. Hopefully I said that right. Hopefully an XLR to RC adapter, or an XLR to RC adapter only uses 2 of 3 pins, so you don't. Yeah, yeah. So that's the thing with, I think XLR uses 3 pins, right?
Yep.
And then it sends. I forget how it works. It sends one signal over like one cable and or 1 pin, and then it does something. I don't know exactly the ins and outs of how it works. I just know that you get a balanced connection with XLR, and it's much better if you can do that. Eliminates noise, like it completely eliminated the noise problem that I was having. So once I, even that alone, even if I didn't notice a difference in audio, I was like, I'm never going back to RCA
Yep.
ever. Let's see. IMAX theaters, I believe, use mid-bass modules for chest slam, which I don't notice in regular theaters. Why in most home theater demo rooms there are subwoofers but no separate mid-bass modules? So from what I understand, I think all theaters, especially more so IMAX, there is no, from what I understand, there is no point one in commercial theaters. Like for home theater, you have, your 7.1, your subwoofer. There are no sub channels, and maybe it's just IMAX, but there are no sub channels. They're all using like full range speakers. Like if you go and look at them, like if you go look at the ceiling, those speakers are massive. They're huge. So those are full range speakers. There is no point one.
Right.
Technically, there's no point one even in the movie track. They mix that differently for home. And I believe the reason why that is because for home, like people don't have the luxury of having these massive, massive full range speakers. So you have, and I mean, it kind of works better, I guess, for most people. But from what I understand, that's why is because there's no LFE track at the theater. It's not like, hey, we need to get 7 speakers and then have these 2 subs. They're just all running full range. So yeah, you get that chest slam, but it's because all the speakers in there are running at full range.
Yeah. Yeah, and in a home theater, if you're going to introduce mid bass modules, I mean you're adding to the complexity and
Hmm.
cost. So you're gonna have your regular speakers, you're gonna have your subs, and then you're gonna introduce something that's in the middle. And so it's like that I mean the sky's the limit, but yeah,
Yeah,
probably out of
if
the range for most people.
yeah, if you're doing like mid bass setups, then you're probably running like a really high end, like where you're like, I've got
Yeah.
the like maybe something like I mean I think Ascendo kind of does stuff like that where you have your kick bass, your infrasonics, and then your mid bass stuff like that. So that's a complicated setup though. I mean, a typical receiver, even probably in a processor, would even be able to like just, oh, let me just run calibration on this. Oh, like it's not going to know that it's mid bass unless you have
Right.
something like a Trinov or a Storm where you can go in there and like just fine tune calibrate it. And even then, you probably still need to get it calibrated because I don't know if most people know how to properly calibrate for that.
Yeah, I think that would be out of the range of the mass majority
Mass,
of
like
people.
you'd be in the 1% if you if you knew how to
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
Let's see. So the shield is meant for a bit of extra protection. Yeah, to ground the actual shield. Yeah, so for XLR.
Mm,
Ariel says IMAX is full range. You're right, Jordan. Yeah, and I think that's for most theaters too. Not even just your standard. I don't think that they have LFE channels in like your if you go to AMC or Cinemark, they may not. IMAX probably has a wider range, a frequency range, and bigger speakers, but I'm pretty sure all theaters there's no. From what I understand, there's no point one. It gets mixed for point one when it gets mixed for the home theater. So, and I mean, you kind of want that. I mean, you got these subs now that can do all kinds of crazy stuff. You got SVS. I mean, you have all these incredible subs that can handle specifically the bass. It's going to be really hard for people to just go all full range and still get that type of chest thump from speakers that just you know with no subwoofer. At least that's my thinking. I would always want a subwoofer in my home theater or 2 or 4. How many? So you said you have a 9.2.6,
9.2.4. So yeah, I
nine
have
point
I
two
have
point
two
four. Okay,
subs, two subs right now. I have two 15-inch subs.
nice. Behind your screen.
No, they're not. One of them's right here. It's on this side, and
Okay,
then the other one is on the other side of the room. So Yeah, it's kind of a long story how I ended up with these. They're also from Snap One. They're a Snap One like in-house brand. Um, so it's a whole other story, but they do all right. They're okay.
Okay. Yeah. So Jeff says, I believe you're correct for most theaters. I could be wrong, but the Dolby Cinemas utilize a transducer under the seat. So
Oh,
you know what's
interesting.
interesting about that? I saw what movie did I see yesterday? Wow, I can't believe my sleep apnea is catching up with me. What did I see at the theater yesterday? What movie came out yesterday? This weekend? I made a post about it. Oh, it was Twisters. Twisters. That's what I
Okay,
saw.
Twister.
So I went to a different Cinemark theater that I usually go to, and I was very confused because when I sat down, I was watching the trailers. I kept feeling this rumbling underneath my seat, and I was like, "This is the first time I've noticed my seat." But I could also hear like a couple seats down from me in the row. It was like this loud rattling, but it didn't feel like, oh, there's something wrong with the seat. I couldn't figure out if there was that theater specifically had transducers, but I was like, what is the rattling? Because it was very distracting. So
Mm,
and it sounded like like I could tell the whole row was rattling or was vibrating. So I'm like, I'm pretty sure they had something transducers, but whatever it was that was rattling, because I kept looking around for, I was like, what is that? So I don't know
mm.
if something was messed up, maybe one of the seats, but I was like, oh,
Something
this is the
came
first time.
loose,
Yeah.
maybe.
But I liked it. I mean, I think for my theater, I don't really care for transducers. And I think it's more of I don't really care to go through the hassle of like trying to do all that. One, I don't want to drill into my Valencia seats. Like, I'm not
Yeah.
doing that. But even if it was something that like I just don't really care to go through all the trouble to do that just to get that experience. But it's cool. Like, I've experienced it and I think it's awesome. I think it's adds to the immersion and the experience. I think just for me personally, I don't really care to do that in my theater. How about you?
So I actually did install some transducers in my three
Okay.
seats on my back row.
The
Um,
Valencias?
no, they're the ones that I had before the
Oh,
Valencias.
okay.
And so they're from Octane, I think. But I actually didn't have to drill into the seats because the frame on the bottom, the channel iron that made up the frame, already even had holes already
Oh,
in it.
nice.
And so what I did was is I just got some 1 by 12 boards, and then I bolted them to the underside of the seat, and then I drilled the transducer, like I connected it to the top of the board. Um, and when I Jeff, yeah, no kidding, man. You get the right subs, you don't need transducers.
Yeah,
That's
and
right.
especially if you get them to where they're near field,
Yeah,
you don't
right,
need them.
right, exactly. Um, so, anyways, I connected them up, and actually, after I connected them up, and I tried them out, I was like, "Whoa, this is like too much." Like it was more than I liked, and my wife even commented. She's like, yeah, I'm not sure I like them. But fortunately, they have an adjustment on them. And so you can just dial them back. And so I dialed them back a bit. And now they're like at the perfect level. It's
Nice.
just enough. And it creates just enough of a bridge between the bass and the mid to high range to where you feel it, but it's not like overpowering. And it
Right.
just it just adds like a little something extra.
Yeah, if you do it right, I've experienced a couple of them at the home theater tours that I did, and if you do it right, you won't even know that they have them or that they're on. If unless they tell you like, hey, I'm gonna do this demo, I'm gonna tell you when I'm turning it on, turning it off. Then you might be like, oh, okay. But if you do it right, you're not supposed to. You're not really supposed to notice it. I mean, you'll feel it, but it's not like, oh, hey, oh,
Oh, my
what's
seat. What is
yeah.
wrong with my seat? Yeah. Yeah,
Unless it's
you
done
want
bad, then yeah,
right. It done correctly, they kind of just blend in, and it just kind of becomes it becomes like one element of the overall experience, not something that's just like overpowering and in your face. If it's overpowering and in your face, I don't like that, and I think most
yeah.
people don't like that. But yeah, if you can adjust it to kind of dial it in.
Yeah, so Twister. I don't know. I was like, what? Because I went to. So I saw Twisters yesterday. No, I saw Twisters on Wednesday, and then yesterday I saw Aaron Lewis in concert from Stain, and he's got like a
Oh,
country tour. So
nice.
that's like one of my favorite. That's actually like he is the single handed reason I got into rock music when I was in high school because I heard "Break the Cycle," and I was like, I didn't even know that I liked rock. I just heard it. Like someone put a random track Epiphany on a. I had a guy that used to make like these mixed CDs and stuff, and he
Hmm.
would you would tell him, you give him $5 and he would make a CD. You tell him the songs, but if you didn't have enough songs to fill up the disc, he would just put random like songs on there. And I remember I was in class listening to that. I heard the song Epiphany, and I was like, "Dude, this is awesome. What is this?" And so I started looking in it, and so yeah. So he came to Houston yesterday. I got to see him live, and it was
Oh, that's awesome.
pretty cool. But I was like, I know I saw something. So yeah, Twisters. I saw that. Um, I I'd get Twisters 6.5 out of 10. It's not a bad movie, but it's not great. It's not going to win any awards for anything.
Mm.
The one thing I'm excited about is the Atmos mix. If they do it right, I don't know what studio that is. Because if it's, I know it's not Disney, but Disney's like there's just I don't know what the deal is with them.
Yeah.
Theirs is always whack.
I think it might be
Paramount.
Paramount.
Okay,
I
that's what I was
think
wondering.
maybe Universal. I think it's either Universal or Paramount. I
Yeah,
think. I
I
could be
think
wrong.
I think the original's still better. I don't know. This one, it just seems like it was more like the story's okay. Like it's not
Uh-huh.
something where it's like, oh, this is stupid. But I just felt like it was, and I guess the original Twisters is kind of like that too. But it was just like, oh, this, hey, here's our tornado. Here's our tornado. Here's another tornado. Oh, we need a, here's a tornado. And it's just kind of like, all right. I mean, I'll take it for what it is. But there's no like, oh wow, I got to really think about this movie. I mean, again, I get it. You take it for what it is, but to me, it was just kind of like, really, like that many, like, so. But yeah, it's a cool movie. I'm excited about it to hopefully, and I think Paramount and Universal are usually pretty good for home mixes.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about that. I'm curious to see what other people actually think about the movie. But I think I'm confident in saying that most people are going to think the original is better. And
Oh,
I'm
okay.
still I don't dislike the guy, but I haven't figured out if what is his name?
The main guy, Glenn Powell.
Glenn Powell. There's something about him that's like, is this guy a good actor? Because I mean, he's popping right now, but I'm like,
Yeah.
he kind of reminds me of Ryan Gosling. Ryan Gosling has that there's an expression and a look on his face that he always has. It doesn't matter what movie he's in. And Glenn Powell kind of reminds me of that. He's always got this the same like smile, the smirk, and this like
Yeah.
cockiness about him where I'm like, I see
Mhm.
that in every movie that you do, and I don't know. It's just kind of I'm still kind of not like I said, I don't dislike the guy, but I'm like I don't know if I want to say that he's a good actor yet.
That's so funny because I've had a similar thought process about him
Really,
as well. Yeah, because he played his role really well in Top Gun, like
I
that
loved him in Top Gun.
character.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think they cast him perfectly for that. But does that translate to other films, other
right.
roles, like, or is it just kind of that's his shtick, like
Yeah,
that's who he is, like that's what character he plays, and
right.
so yeah, it remains to be seen.
Yeah, and it's funny. I didn't even realize this till a couple years ago because I was talking about because like Tom Cruise. I think there's people that love him, and then there's people that hate him.
Yeah,
I love his movies. Like, don't get me started on his personal life, Scientology. Like,
yeah,
that's a totally different thing. I watch him to watch the movies because I like him. But it was funny because we were talking about that. We were talking about like, yeah, you see these good actors, they win all these awards and stuff. And we were talking about Tom Cruise, and my buddy was like, he's like, yeah, he's like Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise is like the same dude in every movie, but he's just good. And I started thinking about it, and I was like, you know what? You're right. Like he's never put on like this persona, or he's never put on like this like, oh my god, this guy just went into this. He's the same dude in every movie, but it's rare because it's like I don't mind it. He's awesome. but I
because
had
he
never
does it
thought
so
about it before.
well. He
Yeah,
does
it's
it
like
so well.
he's the same dude in every single movie. Doesn't matter if it's action, sci-fi, but it's like he's cool and it works for him. But other people, you're like, dude, you're the same person in every you're typecast. You know,
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
weird.
Yep. Yeah, the only exception to that is Tropic Thunder. Tom Cruise in Tropic
Yeah,
Thunder.
that was so odd. We're like, is that
Like,
Tom Cruise?
wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. Who is that?
But
Yeah.
it was awesome.
Oh, good
Yeah,
stuff.
Tropic Thunder
Good
is the
stuff.
hottest comic, and it's funny. We were talking about that a couple years ago, and I think Robert Downey Jr. even said it. He was like, "We couldn't make that movie today. Like, we would get so
No.
canceled." But it's so hilarious, man. It's
It's
like
so
Robert Downey Jr. is the
clever.
best part of that movie.
It's so clever.
I get reels on Instagram every now and then of clips of him in
Mm.
that character, and I just watch him over and over because it's so funny.
You're- there's a part. Well, I don't know. Yeah. Watching
Any,
it because that movie's almost 20 years old. I
I
think
know,
like
man.
it's
It's
pretty old,
crazy.
and it's like, oh man, can we watch? Yeah, yeah. Anyways, well,
Yeah, that movie is like it's so hilarious. Like to because I remember when that trailer came out, I was like, "Is that Robert Downey Jr.? Is he playing a black guy? No, he's playing a white guy that's playing a black guy, but he's acting like it." And it was just like, "Wow, that's so like you said, it's so clever to think of." And he just
yeah,
nailed it, dude. Like,
yeah.
but
There's so
it's
many layers because he's actually playing an Australian. He's playing an Australian white
white
guy.
dude that's
Yeah,
playing a
who's
black actor that's not a black. That was whoever
who's
thought of
like a
that was
method
clever.
actor. He's a method
Yeah.
actor who won't break character. I don't know. Yeah,
Took
it
a
was a
whole lot of
total
time just
roast.
to get it up that hill. Now we up in the big league. Man, that's the theme song for the Justice. Just because it's a theme song, don't make it not true. Just like, who thought of this script, man? This script is awesome.
Oh,
But yeah, like it's so sad that you take something like that that's just meant to be funny, and they would all get canceled for making something like that.
oh,
And it's
it would
just it's
be
so
it would be
changed. It's
brutal.
changed so
Yeah.
much, man.
Yeah.
Most people understood the joke of RDJ's character that it was a parody of it. Yeah, it was. It's
It was a
nobody
roast
takes
of
it seriously.
Hollywood.
Yeah,
It was a roast. That movie was a roast of like every stereotype of Hollywood. And I think some people in Hollywood were like, we don't like being made fun of.
So actually, that's another good point. He's another one. Denzel Washington, same
Mm,
dude in every single movie, but it's like you don't
yeah.
think about that. But if you stop and think about it, you're like, oh yeah, he's the same, which is very interesting. I don't know if I'm gonna watch it or not. But I'm like Denzel Washington in a 300 remake. I don't know about that. Like I love Denzel Washington, but like. And then the trailer, like with the music, I was like, "What is this, man? Like, this
Mm,
is what's going on here." So that's
yeah.
going to be interesting to see how. I mean, I will say from the trailer, it does look a little bit. It looks like he's playing the character a little bit more, like, and for that time. But it's still Denzel Washington. It's like I don't know if I can really believe this because
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
he's like I don't think I've ever heard him put on an accent like a foreign accent.
Oh, that's a good point.
It's just
Yeah.
yeah. So he's kind of like Tom Cruise as well. Like Tom Cruise doesn't do accents, but for those people, it's just like oh yeah, they're just a good actor and they're just it's like they're playing themselves. I'm sorry, Gladiator 2. What did I say? Um, did I say another movie? Yeah,
Oh,
Gladiator 2.
I think you said 300, but I knew what
300,
I
Gladiator
knew
2.
what you
I'm
were
sorry. Yeah,
talking.
that's what I
Yeah.
meant. Yeah,
Yeah.
my bad.
Yeah.
Um,
Good
yeah, so
stuff.
that'll be
Good stuff.
interesting. Oh, so what I was going to ask you one thing because I've seen for a while there, and I was like, he's smart. He's trying to integrate his family because those family videos, man, like that's one thing in the last couple of years I noticed that the family channels just like blew up. I mean, if I click
Mm.
on like sometimes they'll pop up if I click on any family channel, husband and wife or kids, it's almost guaranteed they've got like 1 million subscribers. And I will say and I get it, like content creator, whatever. But some of those videos are so cringe because it's like, do people actually believe that this is a legit prank? This is staged.
Yeah.
Like 10 years ago when that first started, before it really like blew up, I was like, oh man, this is hilarious. And then after like the fourth or fifth time, I'm like, wait a minute, you can't be that naive now. Like after the
Yeah.
first couple of jump scares, you would like this is, and then I started realizing like, this isn't real. This is staged. Like, and then you start thinking about there's a camera already there. How did the camera get there? Someone had to
Yeah.
place the camera there. You know they had to do multiple takes. So then you start thinking about it. You're like, this is kind of cheesy. So I don't know. Like I said, there's a niche for everybody. But I remember for a couple videos there, you were including your family, and I was like, he's smart. I see what he's trying to do. But
Yeah, so earlier when I mentioned like I would have thoughts about ideas, I'm like, oh, I wish I could find a video that did this. So one of the ideas or one of the things that I wanted to see was like comparison videos where people would say, okay, is there a difference between streaming and the disc? Is there really that much difference between Atmos and just a 5.1, right? And so what I wanted to see was people doing actual kind of like blind A/B testing.
mhm,
Um, and so I was like, well, I could do it. I'm like, okay, well, who are my test subjects, right? Like who can I get to do this on? Because I can't do it to myself because I'll know which is which,
right.
right? And I was like, well, I I'm just gonna have to get my wife and kids. And I had my brother come over for one of those. And so yeah, I just kind of convinced them to be guinea pigs and be test subjects and be on camera. And they were good sports. They were willing to go along with it. So
So
yeah.
and I think you may have mentioned this in your video. I think you said, is it your daughter who doesn't like she doesn't care about that stuff like home theater, or is it your somebody you were saying that you're like because I know you said you're mainly the one that use it, but I always like to ask like people that are married that are family. I always think it's interesting like to see the dynamic because some there's been a very few times. I mean, I did the one home theater tour with the husband and wife,
Mm,
but most of the times the wife could care less. And maybe the
yeah.
kids, because they're kids, they think it's cool, but they're not an enthusiast yet, you
Right.
know? So how does your family receptive to it?
So my kids are definitely not enthusiasts, but my youngest son, he really enjoys listening to music in the theater.
Okay.
So he'll come down here and he and I will crank up. He really loves like AJR, the group. And so we'll crank that up and we'll listen to it in Atmos and he'll search for songs and he'll search on Apple Music and he'll be like, oh dang, this one's not in Atmos. He's like, oh, that's all right. We'll listen to it anyways. So, but he like looks to see if it's encoded in Atmos. So he really gets into the music and he enjoys the movies as well. My daughter, she actually her friends are far more impressed by the home theater. I mean, she's
Really
impressed by it, but
interesting.
like she brings her friends over and they're just like, oh my gosh, this is so
That's
cool, so
hilarious.
they really enjoy it. And then my wife actually really enjoys the theater, and she's kind of funny. She's like I'll play her some demos and then I'll be like, do you want to watch like an actual movie? And she's like, actually I really like just watching demos. So she
Like
really
what?
gets into that. Yeah, yeah.
That's
So
funny.
so yeah, they enjoy it. But I wouldn't put any of them at the level of like an enthusiast, but maybe someday.
Yeah, that's kind of like I'm the only one. I think I'm the only one out of like if you exclude content creators and people like that are in that world, I think I'm the only one out of everybody that I know personally that has a home theater.
Mm,
So I don't know, like there isn't anyone else that I could go, but like, oh, let me go. That's not like a home theater tour or going to, you know, a show. I don't know anybody else that I could be like, hey, I want to go watch this at so and so's theater. Like nobody has them. And like my friends,
yeah.
my family, they love coming over. Like my mom will be like, hey, can I come over? Or it'll be like a musical or something. My friends will be like, "Hey, can we come over and watch, Godzilla -1 or something like that?" I'm like, "Yeah, man, you don't have to ask. I mean, as long as I'm available and just let me know because I got to clean it up. Because that's one thing that I have a love hate relationship right now is my theater is constantly in disarray because I'm always filming in there, and it's just the life
Yep.
now, and it's just like I walk in there and I'm like, oh my god, I just want to come in here and I just want it to be clean and I just want to sit down and watch a movie. And then when I finally, after like months and months and months, I clean it up, it's how it should be. I watch like a couple movies and then it's just right back to like, oh, I got to film it here, and it's just like, but hey, it is what it
Yeah.
is. But yeah, none of my friends are home theater enthusiasts. They love coming over and watching movies, but
Mhm.
if I try to talk to them about like amps or wattage or like they're like I get like a glaze. They're like, I don't care.
Yeah. That's one of the reasons why I started my YouTube channel, was because I was like, I want to talk about this stuff. And aside from my brother and my other brother, but he lives in a different state. Aside from those two, like I don't really have anybody else to talk to about this stuff. And
Hmm.
so this channel has been an avenue, of a way of reaching out to people and having those conversations that I enjoy.
That's awesome. I wanted to hit this comment up because Laptop Doc says, has anyone addressed the big issue of finding the perfect universal remote for home theater? Maybe it's a topic for discussion. Yes. So I'm glad that you brought that up because, and I don't even know if I can pull this up because it's on Kickstarter, but anybody that's been following the Unfolded Circle, they're right now on the Kickstarter for Remote 3. I actually backed it with my own money while I was at MWAVE because it went live, I think, like the first day. So I don't even know if you can. Probably won't even focus.
No, it's. I
It's
think
not
it's
gonna.
too close. Yeah.
Yeah, but so let me see if I can pull it up. But I actually backed it because I saw it and I was like, man, that looks pretty cool. So it's more of an IP based. It's kind of along the lines of like Creston or something like that, but it's IP based and it's open source and you can integrate it with like Home Assistant. So you should be able to do
Ah,
all kinds of stuff. They've had I think two versions or one version because they came out with one, and then because when they came out with Unfolded Circle 3, I'm like, wait, what happened to 2? But it looks like it's a really cool remote. So I actually backed it, and I think next week they hit their goal in like a couple of hours, and then went like way over they got way more than they were needing to. So, but I think next week they actually like bill people for it, and then I think December, I think they said it's gonna ship. Yeah,
interesting.
exactly. So what happened to? So I think it folded. I think what they said in their like little memo, whatever, is that they people love the remote one so much that they decided to. It was really weird. They decided to just do an updated remote 3 because it was really weird when I was reading it. I was like, what? I was like, well, why don't you just call it 2? But anyways, it's called a folded circle remote 3 and it's got a bunch of different improvements and stuff. So I'm really
Nice.
excited about that. I'm still currently using Harmony. It hasn't died on me yet. Sofa Baton, the X1S, is actually really, really good. They've made some good improvements, but it's still not like Logitech level yet.
Mhm.
So I'm still using the Logitech remote. I still love it. But I'm excited about the Unfolded Circle because that thing can do way more stuff if it works right. Logitech is limited as far as like IP based stuff. One thing that drives me crazy about the remote is that for whatever reason, randomly, every so often, it decides it's just not going to turn off my projector. It'll turn it on every
Hmm.
single time, but like I would say 97% of the time it'll turn it off. But I can't tell you how many times I've gotten burned over the years where I've hit off on the remote and I've walked out of my theater at like 9 or 10 o'clock at night. And then like the next morning at like 8 a.m., I walk in the theater. I'm like, man, it is hot in here. What's going on? And then I look. I'm
Oh
like,
no.
my projector's still on. Are you kidding me? It's been on for like 10 hours. That's happened to me like a bunch of times. So now, whenever I turn it off, I sit there and I watch. I listen, make sure it's off, and I'm just like, what? And I've done all the like the different delays and all this stuff. So yeah, that's infuriating. Like I just and that was on my bulb. It's happened a couple times
Oh.
on the laser, but like I just burned like 10 hours of just dead, light source just being wasted. So
Oh
it's
shoot.
stuff like that. And with IP, that should never happen because it's IP based. So you don't have to rely on, oh, let me get a infrared blaster, a 20-foot thing to come. Because right now I have an infrared blaster going from my projector all the way up the ceiling, all the way back down into my rack. So
Hmm.
that'll be cool to get that and have something that works over IP. But yeah, that's Man, that just every single time that that's happened, I'm like, you gotta be like. One time it was like almost a full day because I
Oh
work from
my
home 3 days
gosh.
a week. And one time I went into, thankfully, most of the times it's happened is when I was work from home and I just went in there.
Hmm.
But one time I went to work like the whole day, came home, and it was like late at night. I was like, oh, let me go watch something. And I walk in there, I was like, man, why is it so hot in here? Dang it. It's still on. So then it's like, now I don't
What
even want to
brand?
use it.
You're like, it's unreliable. What
Yeah.
brand projector do you have?
So before I had the Epson 5040 UB,
Hmm. Okay.
and then now I
Okay.
have the Epson LS12000B.
Okay. There may be, so I have the Epson 6050 UB,
Okay, so you
and
had the one a couple after me.
yeah.
Oh no, no, that's
So
the same. That's 1 year after me, but like the high, that was the highest tier that they had, right?
right. Yep. 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 But a step down. I mean, so your laser is like the new, like I think
Yeah,
they
yeah, yeah. I
discontinued the
think
6050.
I think the 60 the laser came out right after the 6050.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would check the settings because I know on my 6050 there's a setting where I can set it to where if it doesn't have an input after a certain length of
That's
time, it
true.
shuts off. So I have it set to 15 minutes, and so
Okay. Yeah,
it'll
that's right.
shut
I
off
didn't.
automatically.
I
So
know. I
yeah,
didn't even think about that. Yeah, power
might check that.
settings. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's happened to me more times than I would like to admit. Like a lot of times.
Hmm.
And it's so random because like I said, 97% of the time it'll turn off, and then just for whatever reason it just decides, I'm not gonna turn off.
Oh shoot.
So, and with a
Burning up that
bulb,
bulb.
it's like, yeah. So I was just like, man, that's hours of like just sitting there, and it's not even like. At least if there was something, I mean, it still would be bad. At least if there was something playing, but it's just like everything else is turned off. The lights just there on the screen,
Oh
just
man.
wasting away. All right, let
Nice.
me hit some of these star comments if we haven't talked about them already. Let me see. Which movie has the highest resolution quality in your opinion?
Ooh.
Man, that's a hard question. Like, I assume he's talking about 4K Blu-ray. I would say the
Yeah.
cleanest one that I've seen so far is going to be Dune Part Two. Dune
Yeah.
Part Two is like it's. I don't know how you can get a better picture than that.
Yeah. It is. It's like flawless. Like
Hmm.
that is an amazing picture. Yeah, I agree, and I would say a lot of movies that are coming out now, the camera definitely not Aliens
Definitely.
4K. Yeah, definitely not. Movies they're coming out with now, the cameras that they're shooting with are they're
Oh
just
yeah,
unreal. Um, but going back in time, what reprint, not reprint, but what
remaster.
remaster. Uh, One movie that stands out to me, and it may not be objectively the highest resolution, highest quality, but it blew me away. The Fugitive. Now, part of it is
Okay,
could
I
be
haven't seen that
because
one.
I just love that movie. I grew up watching that movie. I love that movie. But the 4K, they did that one right. It looks so good. So it's really
It's
cool what they can do these days.
yeah, it's pretty impressive. I mean, I know James Cameron. Like some people are not don't like what he's doing with the AI because it looks too smooth.
Yeah.
But the fact that they can even do that on,
Yeah.
I mean, I had never even seen The Abyss ever. And so that was my first. I don't even know what it looks like, but it's one of those things where, like, okay, obviously I can tell that this movie is old just from watching it, but at the same time, this looks really good for a 30, plus year old movie. And it's like, man, that's pretty impressive. And like, yeah,
Yeah.
like you said, now everybody's basically pretty much, and I didn't even really know this. Apparently, movies have been shooting in 8K for like a really long time. Like some old movies, and I'm talking about like in the 60s and 50s,
The
were shooting
film.
on really high film.
Yep.
They just didn't have the technology. They didn't have 8K TVs. They didn't have 8K projectors, so it would be mastered at whatever the resolution was at that time. But apparently, a lot of those films they've been shooting at really high resolutions. So that goes back to what we were talking about. They can now take those old prints with the technology that we have, and they can remaster them. And that's why it's like, oh snap, yeah, like it still looks like it was made in 1975. But dang, this looks way better than the DVD,
Yeah.
the Blu-ray, all that stuff. So I would say, for me, the cleanest movie that I've seen is Dune Part Two,
Mm.
and it doesn't. I'm not saying that it looks as good as Dune Part Two, but Godzilla minus one looks pretty good. I
Yeah.
think it looks like really good on Blu-ray. Like it looks better than what I saw in the theater, audio and video. Have you had a chance to watch it on actual like physical media? Because I don't have
I've only
Netflix.
seen the Netflix one.
Okay, I don't have Netflix, but I'm curious. I'm curious to see how different it is because apparently everyone says it's awesome. But man, that's I don't see anything beating that for me.
Mm.
That movie is just absolutely insanity on like another level that I hadn't ever experienced before, and I don't see anybody beating it. And what like you can tell whoever mixed that for the home, like in Japan, Toho, whoever it was, they put some love and care into that because it sounds amazing. And
Yeah.
you know, from what I've heard, that the Netflix version as well sounds pretty good. So, man, if you ever and actually it's available to pre-order. They're releasing it in the U.S.
Are they? I hadn't heard that.
Yeah, I'll
That's
send you the
awesome.
link. Yeah, I have the
Okay.
link.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can buy it. I don't know if it has English sub. I think it does have English, or it will have English subtitles.
Okay.
Obviously, the one I have, it's it's foreign, but it has the subtitles on it.
Nice.
Well, it doesn't have the subtitles on it. You have to like download it. It's kind of a thing, but I think the actual U.S. release will have it on there, so you don't have to try to do all that. But
Cool.
yeah, man, if you can get your hands on it and listen to it, I'm curious to see what you would think. I'm sure the disc sounds better, just because there's still some compression. But if I had Netflix, I would watch it just to see. But I'm not gonna get Netflix just for that.
Yeah. 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 So to the way I watched it was on Netflix, but I watched the Atmos version, which the Atmos is only available. You have to watch it in Japanese with the English subtitles. If you
Mhm.
watch the dubbed version, it's not in Atmos. So yeah, you watch it
I don't know
in
why they would
Japanese
do
with the
that.
English. Good question. I'm not sure. But even over streaming, that Atmos mix was
Yeah, man.
nice. It sounded really, really good.
And it's almost like you don't expect it because I know when Shane did his review and he was saying how awesome it is, I was like, oh, okay, because I saw it in the theater and I was like, oh, okay, and I don't know if it wasn't. I don't remember it sounding like that in the theater. I saw it. No, I saw it once. I was not impressed with it. Like I was impressed with the movie. I thought it was good, but
Hmm.
I don't remember watching it in the theater being like, oh my god. And so when I saw his review, I was like, okay. And then when I got it, and that opening scene when Godzilla first shows up, I was like, oh snap! Like I've never heard my. This is what I have always envisioned Atmos to sound like on my speakers. Like
Yeah.
this is how it's supposed to sound. Why are not more studios mixing their content like this?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, just like that's one movie with the visuals and the audio on home. Because when I saw it did you see it in the theater?
I did. Yeah.
You did. Okay. When I
Yeah.
saw it in the theater, that scene when he shows up, because when they're trying to shoot him and they've got that wooden boat. When he shows
Yeah.
up and he comes up out of the water, his eyes. That was like the first time I actually was like, this is genuinely frightening. Like I love the other Godzilla movies, Warner Brothers, but like I don't feel scared when I watch that Godzilla. I love it. I
Yeah.
love those movies. But this one, what they did with his eyes, I was like, oh snap, this is kind of freaking me out.
There's some
Yeah.
stakes here. Yeah, for sure.
And then at the very end, right before he flies into him, and he gets like he gets his body like super wide, like he's mad. And he comes up out of the because they did the what is it, the compression or whatever that they send him through, and he comes up and he's like
Oh,
about
right.
I was like, oh snap, this dude is like, this is frightening, man. But it was
Yeah.
awesome. So to have
Yeah.
the visuals match and actually exceed with the audio was just like, I love watching that movie, man. I never get tired of watching that thing.
Yeah, it's so good. So so good.
Let me see. And the irony is, Minus One was made on $15 million. Like
Yeah.
there's obviously scenes because when I saw it in the theater, I knew going in that it cost that much. If you hadn't told me, I would never have guessed that. There's obviously scenes where you're like, okay, I see the budget. When he's walking, and then I think there was one plane shot where I was like, okay, that's definitely a prop. But like other than that, man, you would not know that that movie cost $15 million. I don't know how they did that,
Yeah. It's
but
crazy.
it's wild. Let's see. Both the sound mixing and visual effects were better than many Hollywood. Yeah, I think that
Yeah, I
I'll
agree.
put that movie up against. It's just specifically speaking about the 4K Blu-ray. I'll put that up against anything, and it will any movie, and it will blow. Even Dune Part Two. I think Dune Part Two, if I'm being fair, is the overall better movie, like through and through. But
Mhm.
if we're talking just audio, hands down, minus one, not even close. Okay, let me see. Here's the start. So some of this is about K-Scape that because we kind of already talked about. Um, love George's videos. Great stuff. Subscribed 3 months ago.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, if you guys aren't subscribed, go check out his channel. It's got some good content on there. Check out his channel. It's called Theater at Home. So that's a question. Before, because I think we're pretty much done. How did you come up with your YouTube channel name?
Ah, that is a good question. So I wanted to make it I didn't want to like box myself in, like be like George's amplifiers, and then and then it's like, oh, now I can't talk about anything else, right?
Right.
So I wanted to keep it broad, but at the same time, I wanted it to reflect what my content was about, and so basically, yeah, theater at home. Like I enjoy the theater experience, and that includes, you know, the home theater equipment, the home theater experience, but then also the movies themselves. And so theater at home, like, and I enjoy the theater experience at my home, and so that's all of it right there. So
Nice.
thanks,
Nice.
Jeff. Thanks for joining.
Yeah. Thanks
Great
for
to have you
joining,
here.
Jeff. Sorry I didn't get a chance to meet you, but hopefully we'll get to meet each other again. I am going to Cedia in September. I don't know if you'll be there, so if you are, maybe I'll try to look for you. He says, "Great chatting with everyone. Have a great weekend."
Thanks, Jeff.
Uh, I only saw up to Georgia about 6 months ago. I mean, that's a long time, man. That's 6 months is
That's
a long time.
that's about when I got started.
Oh, okay. So yeah,
Yeah.
right from the start.
Yeah.
Good
Nice.
channel already.
Awesome. Thank you.
This
Appreciate it.
is, I just found him after the MWAVE. So yeah, man. So like going to going to these shows, content because people, at least in the home theater realm, people are looking for MWAVE content. So
Yeah.
you know, um, let's see. It says I only ever went to one audio show, which was Cedia in London. Oh man,
That would be
Cedia was in
awesome.
London, 2009. Wow, that was a long, long time ago. Well, yeah, man. I know it's so it's what 8:30 here. So yeah, we've been on for about 2 hours. So it's funny. I always say like, yeah, we'll keep it about an hour, hour and a half. Whenever you start talking, man, it gets you lose track of time and it gets it's
Yeah.
fun, So,
Yep.
um,
Totally.
but I do need to get me some. Actually, I need to go get some groceries, give me something to eat, and I guess do some other stuff. But yeah, man, it was good having you on the channel, getting to talk to you, getting to hear about your theater journey. I think you're doing some cool stuff in the home theater world, and it's gonna be you're gonna keep growing and keep getting opportunities to work with brands more. So that's cool, man.
Well,
I know I definitely didn't have any opportunities to work with brands when I was a year year and a half, 2 years in, but it's a grind, man. And yeah,
yeah,
I
it's
mean,
it's a journey. It's an adventure. So
yeah, because I know when I started, that was the thing. One thing where it's like, okay, I don't have any product to review. I just had to keep thinking up stuff to make videos. And so
yeah.
I would find topics and, all right, I'm going to make a video about this. And it's just, it takes time, and there's definitely, I don't know about you, but there's definitely times where I'm like, I don't feel like filming anything. I don't feel like turning on a camera. I don't feel like, I just want to go in my theater and relax. relax. And then I'm
Oh,
like,
totally.
all right, I got a stack of boxes here that I need to that I need to start working on. Okay, but yeah,
Nice. Well, thank
um,
you so much for having me on.
yeah, man.
This has been a pleasure. It's been
Yeah, it's
awesome.
been a pleasure. We'll do it again sometime.
Nice.
Um, and yeah, like, if everybody that's still watching, if you're watching this later, theater at home, go check him out. Go check out his YouTube channel. And yeah, we appreciate everybody that tuned in on this Friday. Hope you have a good weekend. And yeah, I have, it's probably gonna post tomorrow, but I have my uh, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes 4K review coming out tomorrow. It's probably finished uploading by now, so look for that. And then I'll probably try to start working on the Zidoo. You got any videos coming out soon, George?
I've got a few in the works. I've got I'm gonna make one about that RCA versus XLR and
Oh
kind
yeah,
of
yeah,
my
yeah.
experience, and I'm gonna show because it was just so interesting to me to see the actual data, and just see how
People like
the
data.
difference in that. Yeah, so I thought that would be valuable. So I've got that coming out. Well, I have to shoot it first. But that's next in the pipeline, and then I've got some others that I'm trying to figure out which one, how to order them. But yeah, there's every time I make a video, I always come up with three more ideas.
Yeah.
So it seems to be pretty endless.
All right, man. Well,
Well, thank you
thank you.
so much.
Yeah, thank you to everybody. Make sure you check out George's channel if you're not already
Appreciate it.
subscribed. Do all the YouTube stuff, like, share all that stuff. And I guess we will see everybody in one of our next videos. And have a good weekend.
All right. See you guys.